Welcome back to another video. So this is also related to debugging, and I think it's the last video I'll make about debugging for now. But I wanted to look at another topic called custom loggers. Okay, so up until now we've just used the default logger, which is the root, and it's activated by the logging module whenever you call those functions that the logging module provides. But you could also set up your own loggers, and logging in programming in general is a really advanced topic because it deals with so many different things, and logging can be done for many purposes. So therefore there needs to be lots of room for configuring and customizing the way you want to log data and log messages and events that are happening in a big system, for example. And then you also want to, for example, you have different severity levels, and you basically, there are many things that you might want to log, not just exceptions. And also when you think about the destination, so where is this, where are all the logs supposed to end up? So do you want them to end up in a JSON file somewhere? Do you want them to end up just being printed to the console, to the screen of the one who executes it? Or do you want to send them over HTTP to some other service? Or do you want to, for example, send them as email messages to someone? Many different things that you might want to support. So therefore the logging tools are quite advanced in Python as well, even though they're quite simple to use in their most basic use cases. They can also become quite advanced. So therefore I won't go into the details. I just want, the whole purpose of showing this is to kind of give you a hint that this is possible in Python. I've personally not used them. I have not programmed that much in Python, to be honest, but it's good to actually know that it exists. So let's just start by importing the logging module and save. So let's create a variable called logger, and we'll say that this logging module should give me a logger, and this one needs a name, right? So there has to be some way to kind of specify what the name of the logger is, because you could have multiple loggers, right? And you could have different loggers in different modules and so on. So but let's just say, for the purpose of this video, let's just say logger 1, right? Logger 1, like that. That would be good, I think. And then you could also, what you could also do is you could say, okay, let's set this severity level. So set the level, and here you have different things. You have critical, debug. We'll use debug. So it's the logging level of the of the logger, right? And then when I said what I said before, that when I talked about the destinations, right? So you want to maybe send the data somewhere, right? And therefore you have the concept of handlers. So handlers is our kind of functionality that you can use to send the data to a specific destination. As I said, it could be a standard output to the terminal, to the screen. It could be saved to a file, or it could be sent over HTTP to another, like a backend service, that like a logging service that expects these types of requests. And it could also be through email, right, via SMTP, which is a protocol for sending emails. And you could also set multiple handlers. So you could say that, so when something happens, when this event happens, I want to print it to the screen, but I also want to send it as an email, and I also want to send it to a monitoring service, right? And this is achievable with Python. So just to do something really simple now, I'll say I want to try to actually save this to an actual, yeah, I mean, save it to maybe save it to the same file, right? Or not to the same file, to the same folder. So let's create a file handler. I want to try this out. And as I said before, many of the things I do now, I do them live. So I haven't done it before, but let's just code together and see. So I will create a variable, and I will use the logging.file handler, and this one takes a log path. And the log path, I would say it's something like that. It has to be string, of course. Something like this, and I'll say log, right? Log.txt maybe. I don't know if that works. Hopefully it does. Or maybe I could say custom debug. Okay, custom debug.log. Let's see if that works. And I think it also needs a mode, so I'll say that the mode should be writing. And the mode is kind of, if you've ever created files using a programming language, there are different ways of writing to a file. So when you say write, I think it will append to the end of the file. But sometimes if you write to a file, it will simply overwrite the current file contents. So you will always get a new, an empty, or a kind of you'll always start from blank, if that makes sense, so start from scratch. And usually in log files, I don't think we want that behavior, because I think you want to compile a list of many log messages, not overwrite them, right? So let's set the level of the file handler as well. Yeah, let's set the level of it to be logging.error. So it's a quite important thing, and I think that one of the most important things here is that we also need to add the handler to the logger, right? So we have to say logger.add handler, and then we pass it the file handler. And now if I say logger.warning, this is a warning. Let me try to execute this function now. Let's see what happens. Yes, and let's see ls. Yes, and we see that we actually got this file now. So I can say cat and custom debug.log. It's actually empty. That's interesting. Let's try to open this. Yeah, so it is empty. That's strange. Maybe we need to actually do something, right, that makes it fail, I guess. Let's see, raise runtime error. This is an error. I'll say accept. I'll just log here, right? Let's see if that works. No, it actually does not work. So that's kind of interesting to know that I didn't manage to save the. So I think I need to do a bit more. I need to set the file path. I'll store this in a variable. I think it's easier to actually do that. So I'll store this to a variable, and then I'll say logging.config.fileconfig. Let's see if this works. Does this actually work? No, it doesn't. Okay, so I stopped the recording and I did some research, and I realized that yes, of course, there was some configuration missing. So one thing that you need to do is you need to, at the very top of the module, also define some configuration. So in this case, I said that, okay, the file name where I want the logs to end up should be the custom debug log. So now let's run this. and let's read. So, and we see that when we read the file, we see that it's actually being saved to this file, which is nice. And yes, if I can run maybe multiple things just to prove the point that it's actually running all these things. .info debug. This is an info message. Debug message. Let's see if that works. Does this work? Yeah, and let's try to execute the code and read the file, and we see that we get multiple things. And I think that if I change this to A, what happens then? If I need to run the code again. Yes, and then we see that it actually appends, right? So this is also one thing I wanted to show, that it actually appends things, and I can actually prove this by running it again and read the file, and then we see that it adds to it again. So A means appending, right? So it means that you actually append something to the file, whereas W means that you're only writing over everything, right? So it's kind of like you're emptying or clearing the whole file and then writing to it. Then we only see what was actually logged from the beginning. Thanks for watching. I won't go into more details about logging. It is quite complex. You can do many things with it, but it's good to know that it exists.